unless you're a teacher, you will never know and truly understand the side effects of the job. So I'm going to talk through some major side effects that I've experienced personally, people who I've spoke to in this space, and how and why we need to make a bit of a shift to see a change in the teaching circle, in the teaching industry, because actually it's just not acceptable. Hey guys, I'm Chrissy Morris. I'm your Teacher 10 online fitness coach, and I am the founder of the Teacher Fitness Academy. You can find me on Instagram over at Coachchrissiee. On YouTube, just Chrissy Morris. But yeah, a little bit around who I am and what I do. So if you guys don't know and you've not followed me for a while, I used to be a teacher in primary schools for 6 years, and then I started up the Teacher Fitness Academy, leaving the teaching space. I think over the last 18 months, as I've grown sort of my page and my profile, it's become apparent more than ever that there needs to be a shift and there needs to be a change in teaching. This is so much bigger than just fat loss or feeling or looking a certain way. It's actually down to well-being, mental health, and the struggles that are happening to so many people. It scared me a little bit. I put this post up on Instagram a while back, and it got so much reach. There were so many people who could resonate with the post, who felt like it touched them, and it just really felt like there is and needs to be something that's done. And I do feel like there probably needs to be something that's done at a higher up level, because there's so many people feeling like this. Us as individuals only have so much control, but actually, what are the things that we can do? What actions can we start to make a change? Because there does need to be a shift. Teachers, they're like the crux of society, right? Your children are going to school, they're getting taught by, amazing people, and those people aren't getting looked after. And at the end of the day, like, we know as teachers, if you aren't looking after yourself, it is so hard to show up in the best way possible for those people. And actually, the problem is, if people are feeling like that in that career, in that space, it's just going to drive more and more people to leave the profession, which is not what we want. It's such an amazing and rewarding job, but there needs to be something done around the wellbeing side. And honestly, I beg you, if you are a head teacher, somebody in leadership who has that power to make an impact in your school, please reach out to me, because I just really want to be able to share this message with more and more people. If you are a teacher and you're here, then this is 100% for you, because today I'm going to be talking about some side effects from teaching and how we can overcome them, and how we can sort of start to acknowledge and know what they are and then take action on them, is, I guess, what I want to really address today and talk about. So, I want to go over 5 main side effects that I found from the job personally. I'm going to share a little bit around my story with those, and then I want to talk about how we can overcome each of these side effects. And it'll be really interesting to see if you guys can relate and resonate too with what I'm talking about. So, I think number one, the biggest side effect that I have found from teaching is the impact it has on my physical health. So, this has manifested in lots of different ways throughout my teaching career, but one way that has been incredibly apparent for me is through my skin. This is something that's still not cleared up. I think when you do have problems with your skin, it lasts for a while, and then it's very hard and difficult to kind of manage it and get it back to it being normal. You can't really see now. I'm going to put some pictures on screen, but because I am wearing makeup, I wear makeup every single day, because I honestly don't. I wouldn't feel confident enough not to, especially because I'm on camera a lot and things like that. But my skin was impacted massively, and I find that there's a couple of physical problems that we get from teaching, and physical things that I see time and time again in teachers. And obviously, I've got no like official teaching cause as this, but there is 100% a correlation there, because I talk to so many ladies who struggle with similar and same problems. Your skin is very much linked to your hormones, your cortisol levels, which are very much ingrained and linked to stress. If you are running at a high stress state all of the time, it has impacts like this. It has impacts on your skin. Things like your digestion will be impacted, but in particular, the way it manifests in different people will show up in a different way. For me, when I started teaching, my skin was absolutely fine. There was nothing that I needed to hide. I probably had a few blemishes here and there, but I started my teaching career, and particularly as I went through my 20s, I found that there was always some sort of spot coming out, and especially around the bottom of my face, which is incredibly hormone related. I think I've kind of brushed it aside, if I'm honest, because it's not a huge issue for me. I can cover it. Once I cover it, I feel okay. Makeup is there. But this last year or so, I've really tried to be on a mission to sort of solve this problem. And it's hard. Like, I feel like my hormones have kind of acknowledged it, and it's really hard to shift from it. Another area where teaching impacted me in a physical way, and this was huge when I was teaching, was through my digestion and IBS. If you are a teacher and you have IBS, please comment below. Because I genuinely think there is a massive correlation between the job and digestion and your gut health. The amount of ladies that I talk to who struggle with IBS, digestion, bloating, discomfort, it's absolutely huge. And again, I do feel like this is a stress response and can have a massive impact. I remember my IBS being so bad when I first started my teaching career that there was one day that I had to leave the classroom to go and lie down in the toilets because I was in such crippling pain. Like, I've had to leave work because of that. It's made me feel that poorly and that ill. And I do feel like that is a massive journey in itself, overcoming that. And teaching does have an impact on your stomach and IBS. And I think there's lots of different reasons why with that. I think one of the main reasons might be because we can't actually go to the toilet when we want to when we're teaching, which obviously that's quite hard, right? Especially if you do struggle with digestion, you have to go at set intervals. Like, who can actually time when they're meant to be going to the toilet? Like, that's really, really difficult. I think another side is the stress again. If you are stressed out in your job, you're always on the go. It's very difficult to then acknowledge that you need to slow down, take a pause, and actually acknowledge what's going on inside of you and stop those symptoms happening. I think the next part is you've got very limited windows around when you can eat. So you've got certain times to eat, and you're often eating really, really quickly, shoveling food down your throat because you've got something to do, or you've got to get ready for the afternoon. And we know that our lunch breaks are taken over and our everything is just taken over, which does have a massive impact. So yeah, I think they're the two main physical symptoms that impacted me, and the side effects of teaching was my skin and my gut health and my digestion. I think teaching has a massive impact and a huge impact as well on your mental health at times if you allow it to and let it to. I think there is so much pressure on teachers to get it absolutely right. I think that naturally comes from the children because you're their teacher and they think, oh, you're a teacher, you know everything. So, and we can't blame them for that. Like, that's just how they've been brought up and what it should be. And it's quite nice that they've got that confidence in you. But I do feel like there's a huge amount of pressure a lot of the time to get it perfect. Every single moment, every single minute counts in that classroom. Every single second that you need to make a decision, it needs to be the right decision because every moment counts. And if you're not making every moment count, then it's not fair on the children. And there is an enormous amount of pressure on teachers to make things perfect. And I think the problem is if things don't quite go to plan, or if you're struggling in a certain area, then there's a lot of fear around it because the blame gets shifted on you. It's quite apparent, and there will be a lot of there's a lot of consequences, negative consequences to you not getting it right. And I'd like to think that I was a very good teacher. I love teaching, and there were lessons, guys, that I did that were absolutely atrocious at times because you are a human being. You have to learn. And I think, especially in my first few years of teaching, there were lessons where I would literally look at that and be like, oh my goodness, how did that happen? And it goes wrong. And that is fine. And I think this needs to be fed down from a leadership perspective that it is okay to get it wrong. It is okay for things not to be perfect all of the time. It's the bigger picture that matters. And it's the fact that you're trying and caring and learning from that because you are a human being at the end of the day. And this pressure, this enormous pressure to get everything perfect all of the time, leads to an incredible amount of anxiety around the week a lot of the time for people, which has an impact on mental health. How many of you guys watching this gets that feeling on a Sunday night about the Monday coming because you are just so overwhelmed about maybe the sheer amount of things you have to do, but also about the amount of things that you have to get absolutely right, which, you know, is quite normal in your teaching career. And I find it overwhelming. I think it can be hard. And I think there does need to be like this mindset shift of course, we need to try our best with things. Like, it's important. But you cannot expect your members of staff to be absolutely perfect all of the time in the classroom. You cannot expect every single lesson to be perfect. And I think if teachers actually had a bit of a weight lifted off them in terms of pressure, it would leave them feeling better about that and leave their mental health feeling a little bit better too. I think the third area that it has a massive impact on is, and this is a really hard one to sort of like explain and put into words, but I do think it has a massive impact on your outlook on life a little bit. I think in teaching, when you get going on that Monday, it does often feel like you're on a roller coaster all the way to the weekend, which then means that your weekend, your time is so precious, it's so caught up, it's so like you notice that your time is so precious. So I do feel like it can make you quite on it at the weekends around be in particular around sort of like not going with the flow as much, wanting to make sure that every single moment of the weekend you're doing something you enjoy. It's very hard to chill out because you feel a little bit guilty for doing that because this is your only time off. And it can feel quite hard because the only time you've got available is that time at the weekend, right? So then you start to feel like you need to put everything you want to do into that time. And I think that does have a massive impact on your outlook on life because you're not giving yourself that time in the week. Once you get started on a Monday, you're working till 10 o'clock at night every single day until Friday, and it feels like the weekend is the only time you get to switch off or have a bit of a break. And even worse, if you're working all weekend as well, it leaks into it, it has an impact. And I do think this makes us sort of question things, and it gives us like a bit of a decision fatigue around what's going on throughout the week. I think the final area that teaching definitely has an impact on is just our overall and general well-being around life. I think it's so easy for it to creep into our relationships. It's so easy for it to creep into our friendships, how we feel about them, because you are exhausted at the end of the day, and it's tricky for anyone else to appreciate or resonate with that. And it can lead to a lot of frustration because I do genuinely think there's no other job like teaching. And how many of you guys have got home from a day, maybe your partner works from home and they're just like, oh yeah, I had a nap at this time. It leaves you feeling a bit frustrated, right? Because you've been working your socks off all day. And I do honestly feel like unless you've done the job, it's very hard to appreciate how tricky and challenging and exhausting that job is. The mental load from teaching is huge. And it's not just the physical energy that it takes to be on your feet all day, walking around the classroom. It's the mental load of compartmentalizing all of these things on your to-do list. There's lots going on. And then actually coming home to switch off, it's really hard. And usually the only time that you do get to come home and switch off is when you get to that absolute limit where you just feel exhausted and your mental load takes over. So, yeah, there's so many more that I could talk about, so many more things that I could kind of address as sort of side effects of teaching and how they do have an impact on teachers as their well-being. But there's no point me sat here just moaning about all of them. What can we actually do to make a change? And what can we actually do to make sure that teachers are getting looked after and teachers are learning how to prioritize themselves? Because there does need to be a shift. There needs to be something that's done. And although I can't come into your school and change things at a leadership level, I can hopefully give you some tips today that you can take away from this video to share with colleagues, talk to each other about, and really sort of try to implement some healthy habits that aren't going to rock the boat completely, but allow you to feel a little bit better. So these are some of the things that I would definitely build in just to take hold of those symptoms and side effects that I've just spoke about. So number one is we need to reduce stress as much as possible. So this needs to be something that is reduced. So this is kind of the cause of this, a lot of the side effects, right? It's that stress and anxiety around the job. So how can we do that? How can we make sure that we're reducing the stress? And it's not easy because as a teacher, there's so many things that needs to be changed because the to-do list is as long as your arm. I get it. So it's not just being like, okay, I'm not going to be stressed today, but there are some things that we can do to make sure that we are easing that pressure a little bit and making ourselves feel better. My first top tip for like managing stress and making sure that you are feeling a little bit better is taking control of the things that you can, and really being thorough and accurate with how you're spending your time. So this means that you're going to plan and schedule and time block when you're leaving that building, and you're going to stick to it. You're going to plan and schedule and time block when you're doing your planning, when you're doing your downtime, when you're having time off, because I do feel like if things are scheduled into the week, it makes you feel better. Once you look at that plan, I want you to consider it, and then if the list that you've got is so overwhelming that you genuinely can't fit everything in, that is when you know you need to go and talk to somebody, because there needs to be time for you in there. Your week needs to give you time. Leaving work either 1 or 2 days a week at 4 o'clock has to be a must as a teacher, because it just allows you to have some time for you in the evening, allows you to get your workout in, get your training in, come home, relax a little bit, allow you to sort of de-stress, and then you can start the day in a better way, and your energy will be so much better. You will show up so much better in the classroom that next day too. So taking that time for you is so important. So you need to see actually what time you have available and what time you can show up in the classroom in that way as well. I think the second area that you really need to take hold of is managing that stress, is allowing yourself to sort of compartmentalize and come down a little bit throughout the day. I think often we start the day at we get into school at 7:30, we're go, getting the classroom set up. Children come in at 8:45, you'll go until lunchtime. At lunchtime, you're prepping for the afternoon. Most teachers don't sit down till 3:30 when the kids are gone, and then you're absolutely exhausted, but then you've got all of your teaching work to do, right? So what can we do to really take and and give yourself that break throughout the day? Taking a proper lunch break is so important. I cannot emphasize and encourage this enough, and I do feel like that needs to be something that's promoted massively at school level. Your lunch should be such a protected time. You should have at least 30 minutes where you can come away from work, switch off, get a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, eat your lunch in peace without having to think about work, planning, assessment, getting things ready for the afternoon. You need to switch off. If you find this really hard, because I did find this hard, my best piece of advice is to start to build and form some relationships in your school. Pair up with somebody who you want to have that break with, and you will be amazed about the friendships that you can form in that situation. Go and sit with a colleague, go and sit in the staff room, go into someone else's classroom who is always in the classroom and they didn't come out, and just start talking to them, because that is a massive way where you can start to shift and change that mindset and shift and change the culture in your school by encouraging and talking about to people about having time off and time away from the classroom as well. It's absolutely huge. This third one is all about time. You are stressed because you've not got enough time to do the things that you need to do, right? So you need to make sure that the time you've got is absolutely protected and nothing comes to it. There is no reason why somebody should take your PPA for whatever way, shape, or form. I don't care where that's coming from. There is no reason. You do not get enough time physically anyway until to plan all of the things that you've got to do for a whole week. So there should be no reason why somebody is eating into that PPA or something is eating into that PPA. So you need to be quite strict with that. And it's not about causing arguments. It's not about sort of like looking after yourself, but there needs to be someone you can talk to at school if that is happening, because all of that time that you should be given should be protected, and it needs to be, has to be a must. Okay. It's not okay for it not to be protected. That's your time to plan. If you're not going to get there. I also really encourage, if you are struggling to fit everything in, there is no harm in asking for a little bit more. I've had some really positive experiences in the past where I have maybe been felt a bit overwhelmed. There's a lot going on, and I've literally just gone and asked my head teacher for some help and support and just a little bit more time, because I'm struggling with fitting everything in. And do you know what happens? They give it you. And I think sometimes it's the fact that we just don't ask, because I think as teachers we just absorb and absorb and absorb, and we don't actually start giving anything back to ourselves, and we think we can cope with it. And it's not until often you get to that breaking point where you realize that, oh, maybe I do need a little bit more help, or maybe I do need to do something to get from A to B. So I would 100% say go and get that time where you need it and where you feel you need it to. The next part that I want to talk about is allowing yourself and encouraging yourself to have a switch off in the evenings. You cannot survive Monday to Friday without having a break throughout the week. You need to have a switch off. You need to talk to yourself around what time you're going to actually pause the clock, leave the classroom, go home, and just not do anything else for the rest of the day. And whatever is not done will get done tomorrow. That needs to be a priority, whether it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever time it might be. Just make sure that you've got a rule in your head that I don't do work after this time. I make sure that I prioritize myself, have a chilled evening, spend time with my partner, have dinner, and relax. If you keep letting work creep into your life in the evenings, it's a very slippery slope. It starts off with, just 1 or 2 evenings, but then it's eating into your time with the children, the time with your partner, relaxing on the sofa at night. And this all seems like silly things, but do you know that time is so valuable with you and your group, your community, like your people, your house, and you don't want this to slowly creep in, and it does happen very slowly. So take hold of that where you can and have that cut off where you can. The amount of teachers I've known who are on their laptop until 10 o'clock at night just doing, you need to realize, guys, that it is a job, and I know you care, but it's a job at the end of the day. So you've got to have that cut off. You are not paid to do that, and the more you work, the less you are paid per hour, because your hourly rate goes down, right? The more that you work, because you're working more hours. So don't allow it to take over. Have that cut off. Decompartmentalize in the evenings and allow yourself to chill out, relax, and take hold of the time that you have available and the shifts that you have available as well. I think the next area that I really wanted to talk to you guys about, and the next area that I felt was important to touch upon, was just allowing yourself to have weekends where you've not got everything planned in. I think it's so easy to feel stuck in a bit of a trap of wanting everything planned in and organized and structured over the weekends so that it feels like you're making the absolute most of that time. But I think this is a bit of a mindset shift that it is absolutely a-okay to just chill out over the weekends and not do anything. It is okay to not have that structure. It is okay to just sort of be at the weekends and not sort of feel like you need to be make every single moment count. You're not in the classroom at the weekends. It's okay to have a bit of downtime and a little bit of time for you. So just allow yourself to have that mindset shift and allow yourself to really sort of switch off and just chill and let the weekends be a little bit too. Anyway, guys, I hope that was helpful. That was my sort of like whistle stop tour, side effects to teaching, how they have an impact. If you guys want to find out more around what I do and how I can help you, go and follow me over on Instagram at Coachchrissiee. There are some great episodes in the YouTube, in the podcast with guests and things like that. So if you do want to do that, if you do want to listen to some more and find out some more, subscribe and check those out. And yeah, I'll